Hi folks, welcome to a slightly different style of the online sessions this week. Sorry that we can't do it live, but my internet connection where I am at the moment is pretty terrible. So, and I don't want to have what we had in week one where things will keep dropping out, things like that. So there's kind of three different sections of this week. This is section one, which is the online session going through the theory. And this will be about 20 minutes. I want to keep it fairly brief because you're not there to ask questions, and I don't want to just bore you to death with some rubbish, like on the whiteboard if it's not led by your feedback. So this is going to be about 20 minutes. We're going to look at a couple of photos, mainly because photos are slightly easier from a copyright perspective than video. If I put the video on and then kind of put it up online for you guys to watch, then we're infringing copyright stuff. So we're going to look at a couple of photos. I'll also send around a video that you can watch to think about spiking. And then there'll be the homework exercise. Exercises which will be coming out tomorrow, so that's Thursday. And then there'll be a Q&A. And I'll try and find that, and that'll be about a 20-minute slot for anyone that wants to come on board. And it'll just be me online. You can pop in and out, come and ask some questions, and I'll answer them. So you're very welcome to join that as and when you'd like to. So let's get on with it. So this week we are talking about spiking and the attack in general. And I wanted to break down this week into three key areas. So we've got one, which is technique. Two, which is vision. And three, decisions. Okay, so I think I've spelled technique wrong, haven't I? Oh well. These decisions are informed by what you can do in terms of a technique and a vision from both those perspectives. And if you look at the best spikers in the world, they've all got fantastic technique normally, and they'll couple that with very, very good vision. Some players will have better vision than technique. Some players will have absolutely fantastic technique, and that allows them not to need their vision as often. Or as not rely on it as much, but it's quite an interesting kind of change in dynamics between them. So from a technique perspective, I think firstly would be your approach. So on the approach, we're looking at going. There are a few key elements here. One is that you are as late as possible. Two, that you are kind of, as you get to the ball, you are speeding up. We don't want to get to a scenario where you're slowing down as you get to the ball, because you're losing dynamism. And the more dynamic you are, the more time you are in the air, and the more time you are in the air, the more time you have to draw back, which we'll get to in a minute. And the more time you have to draw back, the more time you have to look and see what's on the other side of the net. So, so late and fast. So from the approach perspective, or late and dynamic, and really thinking about trying to take your feet aggressively to where the ball is. So that's quite important, is that it's not like indoors where the emphasis is on the setter to find you. You've got to come and find the ball on on the beach. So that means, if this is my court here, that you've got to get yourself into a spot. So where if I pass to here, then I've got to get myself into a spot where I've got a reasonable chance of hitting from. So that might be, you know, from here, I'm giving a nice big circle there that my partner can set the ball into, and I can hit from. But at that point, I've still got to take my feet aggressively to there or through the middle here. Or if it's a wide set, then I might have to take it out to here. So it's about being, you know, I'm not moving anywhere potentially, or if I am, then it's only a small timing step that I can still move on from as they're setting. So I need to wait and kind of see, okay, there's the ball, and then now I'm going to flow and go and get to that ball with as I go, I'm speeding up so that by the end of my movement, my right left or left right if you're a left-hander, so it would be left right left normally would be your standard 3-step approach, that I'm speeding up in those last couple of steps to really maximize the push out of the ground. So I guess before even the approach, what we've talked about there is pre-approach is finding space, finding appropriate space. So because if I erase this and just start again here because it's a bit of a mess, if I pass the ball to here and I stay here as a hitter, or if I just move slightly further towards the net, the problem here is that there aren't very many locations now that I can hit the ball. I can probably just hit the ball from about this small square there. But even then, where am I going to be facing? As a right-hander, I'm kind of facing towards this corner. I'm going to be very hard pushed to hit the ball over this side. Because if you think about it, on the left-hand side, if I'm facing kind of that way and I want to hit the ball over there, it's like I've got to do sort of like lean and hit that way. At which point I've lost a lot of my height and I've shown the other opposition where I want to hit. So part of my approach preparation is that I have to get into a good spot for my partner to set me. So if I pass the ball there, then I want to be going out here generally, if I'm a right-hander, and then allowing myself to then come in facing towards that corner there. So my partner's going to set the ball into there somewhere, and then I'm going to come through at an angle that's taking me towards that corner, because now I can hit down the line that way, and I can also hit across off the body, so I can hit areas like this with the kind of what's called thumb down, and I can also hit like areas over here with thumb up, so like the line over shot or the line shot, and the cut or the harder swing that way. So I've got a much wider range of options on the left side if I'm a right-hander. So obviously if you're a left-hander, flip this. On the right side you need to go a bit wider. So I've got a much wider range of options if I kick out a little bit on that side. Then on the right-hand side, my approach is slightly different. I'll probably be taking more of, so say I've passed the ball from here, I've passed the ball to kind of there. I might kick out a tiny bit, but my approach is more going to try and bring me towards the middle of the court there. Okay, so I need to find myself in a spot where that kind of line of approach is also lining up with where my partner's going to set the ball. So depending where I pass that ball will depend where I go to, but the reason for that is that I can hit that way, so down the line, and then I've got much more angles coming across my body. That's generally a lot easier for everyone, but that will depend a little bit on on your hitting technique. So it's worth bearing that in mind. So I think the second part of pre-approach is maximizing options. Then after that, we need to think about then contact in, arm swing. So there are a few things here. Number one for me, I think, is that you, and let's look at our video, our picture first. Let's look at this one. We want to be at the top of our jump. We want to be able to swing up and be able to hit with a really strong torso. So like when we were talking about the setting, I want to be able to have that ball up here and then to control it with my wrist. As soon as I'm like this or like that, I've lost height, which is, obviously not great when you're playing against the block. And also I've taken off, if I'm over here and I can't hit very well back that way, if I'm over here, then I'm going to really struggle to hit back this way as well. So it's like, if I'm nice and upright, like Lupo is in this picture here, who's one of the players that you'll see this week, you'll see he's very upright here. He's maximizing his height. Okay, it helps that he's got a massive jump. Look at him. But he is completely able to then change where he's hitting at this moment. Okay, so he can come in and then he can finish the swing that way. So thumb down. He can finish it with a thumb up swing. He could probably now still go and up and over a block if there was a block there. So he's got loads and loads of options, and that's what we want to try and replicate, is that we get into a position in the air where we're really upright. And there's lots of different kind of analogies that have been said. I quite like the one that in the air you're trying to kind of look over someone's hedge or look over someone's wall. Is that you're trying to go up and as you pipe up with your arms, you're trying to almost look up and over someone's wall with your chest. It's not that you're going up and then dropping like that. You've got to really try and push your torso up to keep that body nice and straight, because that's going to maximize the number of options you've got. So how do we do that? Well, firstly, by practicing locating the ball straight above our shoulder. So that's going to be part of the homework, is locating ball. But also part of that is by getting an arm swing that is clean and that is going to allow us to finish at that high point. Okay. And so if we look at the second photo that I've got for you, you'll see this is Jeremy Casebeer, one of the AVP players. And you'll see here, look at this line here. Oh, that's not very good color. Let's get a different color here. So look at this line, a nice strong torso. So there's not too much like flopping or going away from that strong line. But then also look at this drawn arm. So how he's drawn this elbow back. That's going to allow him, so when you do that, if you watch my video now, when you draw back, can you see that rotation that's happened there? So what that allows us to do is then, that's going to allow us to then pivot through here and swing through. So it allows us to generate power, but also by drawing back, then that's going to allow us to hit options, so that we've got that one there, or we can hit that one there. If I never get back far enough, I'm not going to get as much power, and I also might not have as many options. Okay, so especially kind of away from the body. So drawing back is really important as well. So that's a bit of that's going to be in some of the drills this week, which are designed to make you think and also to work on your vision. at the same time. So something that is really important then is to, so arm swing, draw back. But then after that, once you've drawn back, so you're going up, so it's up first, draw back, and then, oh, just turn off the chair. So go up, draw back, and then from there, it's that you're driving the elbow to the ball. Because what we don't want is like this, so where the hand is going to the ball. Okay, so if I do that, the problem with that is that I sometimes get into the habit of kind of going around the ball or dropping my shoulder to hit the ball. That's not maximizing my height there, and it's also not maximizing, well, the efficiency of my shoulder. My shoulder doesn't want to go round to things generally. It wants to go up at things, so it's going to help us have a nice healthy arm swing. But it's also not going to maximize the height and the power that we get through it. So I want to be drawing, if the ball is up here, I'm drawing my elbow first and then hit it. So if I want to go across the body, I draw my elbow across and then hit across body there, okay? So it's really thinking about like driving the elbow to the ball and not the hand to the ball, which I think is something that I picked up when I was over in Australia. I really, really like, so I would really encourage you to use it. Elbow to ball, and then being comfortable that you can affect where the ball's going at that last moment through your wrist if you need to, but also it's about, if you want to hit the ball quite a long way that way, rather than stopping the elbow there, you could drive the elbow all the way around and hit that way. And that's what's going to generate you a fast line shot and a fast hit generally, is if you drive that elbow fast and late to the ball, because it's going to generate that really nice whippy action that you see from so many good hitters. Good, so we've talked about technique there, and I think that should hopefully be fairly clear. Vision. Now, this is a little bit more difficult to quantify, vision, and I'm not going to spend too long on it because it is something that you just develop as you go along. It really comes from, can I generate a feeling for what's on the other side as I'm approaching? Then as I'm up at the ball, can I look up at the ball but keep looking down there at the player on the other side? So have an awareness in my peripheral of where the other side is. And that comes from partly from your positioning. So that's why technique and vision go hand in hand, is if you are in a good position, then you'll be looking at the majority of the court, and then you should be able to see more because of that, right? But it's partly from timing. If you're underneath the ball and you're early, then you'll be looking up at the ball up there, and now I can't see the court anymore. So it's really about, like, the vision ties into the general, it ties into the technique. Good vision, so good technique produces good vision as well. So that's just equally as important there. Lastly, I think it's important to kind of work and practice yourself at home. Can I check and can I work on my peripheral vision? You definitely can. You know, it's exercises like I'll send you in the homework with vision of kind of throwing a ball up and seeing what the other person's doing. Then it's throwing a ball up and influencing what you're doing depending on what you're seeing. Okay, and you can do that on your own if you need to. Do that in pairs. There's loads of really good exercises, and it's about being creative with that. So I really encourage you to do that. And then last of all, so I think it's peripheral. And if you're struggling with this, it's stay late. And you don't necessarily need to be going, because while you're doing that, that is, sorry, I should have stopped this because sometimes it's difficult to see. If I'm doing this all the time, then I'm moving my ears, which really help with my balance. and I'm also kind of losing sight of one thing after the other. It's about being really stable with your head as you come in. Then I'm up in the air and I'm keeping it stable. I look up at the ball, but I can see from down there what the other side are doing. Okay, so that's vision. Again, I'll talk about that more in the homework video. And then decisions. And this is where individual style comes in. You can have, and you'll see this in a video, some players just like to absolutely bulldoze the ball. You know, if you watch the Dutch team, Brouwer and Mewson, they have made a career out of just hitting really hard all the time. But they're big. They're 6'7" or 6'9" and 6'10" or something. You know, if you're not that big, you need to be able to make decisions, and it's about starting to play cat and mouse a little bit. So if you've just hit a cut, then the defender might be moving around a little bit towards that way. You might hit another one. You might still score. The next one, you might say, okay, they're probably going to be expecting the cut now. Now I'm going to go for the line over. It's about making that decision at that time and seeing what do I have available, and then having that split second, okay, what's a good option now? And when I'm preparing, I might be thinking, let's just write this in, decisions, cat and mouse. I might be thinking, okay, these are the shots they've dug me on, and that's not necessarily, it's important to recognize that. You shouldn't be like ignoring that, saying, oh, they're not going to dig me again, I'm way too good. That doesn't help anyone. You say, okay, here's where they dug me on. Why did they dig me? Okay, is that just because I hit it really softly that time and I think I can score there again anyway? Or is it because I'm not precise enough and I'm not getting it close enough to the line? Or is it because they're just started to realize that I like that shot? And depending on what you think it is will depend what you do the next time. So when I'm preparing, I might be thinking, okay, well, now I'm going up. I don't want to give myself one option that I want to hit, because that really limits and will mean that as I'm approaching, I'm only approaching for that shot. I want to have at least 2 or 3. So I want to go up and be in neutral, but then also having that idea, okay, I've hit 3 sharp cuts this game already in this set. Maybe now is time, if I get the chance, to hit the line over if it's on, okay? Or I've seen that blocker running around and he's constantly kind of waving his hand. Maybe I can hit and use that blocker and make a tool of him. Okay, I've just been blocked 3 times. I need to do something different. I'm going to run a fast play. I'm going to try and smack it down the line. And if the blocker's there, then I'm going to go high and try and bounce it off the hands. Things like that, where you have a certain number of options for the play that you're playing in. And sometimes, especially in transition, when you've made a dig, for example, and you're like 3 meters off the net and you're spiking, you might only have 1 or 2 options. But it's realizing that and then making the best of what you've got at that point. Okay, I'm going to hit it hard down the middle and make them recycle it. Okay, I'm 4 meters off the net, I'm falling backwards. I'm going to just try and get it deep and make them work hard to bring the ball back to the net. So it's about assessing what you've got in that split second and then making the choice that is informed by what has happened before when you're on side out, and also that you think, okay, I'm going to make them do something really good to get this ball back, okay? And at the end of the day, if you do that every single point, if you make them do something really good to get that ball back, then chances are that you're backing yourself as a defender and a blocking team to be able to do something, more good things to get the ball back than they are. And that's what you've got to back your game on a little bit. So the decisions part is the hardest part to work on without being in a game scenario. But where you can, when you get back on the court, that's what we really want to have the technique kind of dialed in so that you can start being in a really consistent place, so that you haven't, when you're running in, you haven't already pre-decided, I'm going to smack this really hard. because that's when the other side can start reading you and working out what you're going to do before you've even worked out what you're going to do yourself. It's about now building technique where you're just standing and hitting, or small feeds and hitting, or looking and hitting, or practicing on your arm swing, whatever it is, that are allowing you to be in neutral and less readable. Hope that helps. That's it for today. There'll be a Q&A session, and you'll get the homework pretty soon if you haven't already had it, if you're catching up on this. So hope it's helpful. Hope you're all safe and happy and healthy, and see you all soon. Cheers.